Alright, super quick update on Sol. So, clearing up the chart, both Sol USD and Sol BTC look like they're getting primed for a capitulation. As you can see, once we've cleared up the chart over on the Solana USD pair, we're basically coming down to one of our last lines in the sand. This was previous support. This was flipped as resistance down here. Then it was resistance, resistance, you flipped it as support, and now we're coming back down to retest it. So this is a major range. We've had many touch points on here. This is also beautifully correlating to what is going on over on Bitcoin right now. If you see what's going over on Bitcoin, you've basically got the same thing where you come down to this region. This was support, flip resistance, resistance, and it was flip support here, and we're back testing it now. So what is going on with Bitcoin? While the chart might be slightly different, we're basically coming down to our final area in the sand. This is what Solana's doing as well. If we do look at the volume profiles for the visible range, we have a big liquidity grab from where we are now. This is why we absolutely need to hold this region, $37.40. If you do lose this, you're going to, according to the VPVR, have a move down to at least 34.80, meaning from where we are right now, you would have approximately easily another 7% to the downside. Now, this is really just the start of the move. You can see if we do clear up the EMA ribbons, which I will talk about in just one second, we've now moved to the downside of the 14-day EMA. Now, 14-day EMA, this is one of my favorites. Now, we can also look at the 9-day EMA in the lower time frames. I imagine you'd definitely be miles below this as well. The 9-day is a really great moving average when you're either in a uptrend or a downtrend. So bear in mind, this may be signifying, hey, we might be starting a new downtrend, or because we've been trending sideways, this may just be more chop accumulation. So I wouldn't pay too much notice. We will revise the 9 and the 14-day EMA in a little bit. But what is very important is the moving averages. Now, if you're a veteran of my channel, then I have switched the EMA ribbons around slightly since the last time we did cover Solana. So previously, I had all of these ticked where you can see basically every moving average. In my opinion, it really doesn't matter. We only really need to see the 21 and the 55, which is the short-term moving average on the bottom, long-term moving average on the top, and then of course you've got your 200 EMA. What EMA ribbons would be around without the 200 EMA. So nonetheless, we're at the last line in the sand right now. We're losing a lot of momentum. If we come over to some of our oscillators, you can see the MACD is just headed above the heart line. We've got bearish momentum coming in over on the histograms. They've just ticked into light red as the Solana price moves to the downside. It looks like, we've had many very short-lived fake outs to the downside over on Sol USD. However, the downturn that we've had right now is very convincing. Bear in mind as well, the downtrend right here was also very sharp, but it was subsequently lifted within 48 hours. We managed to have a move back to the upside. So let's definitely see how this pans out. We already are in our first 24 hours to the downside, and I definitely don't think there's anything we can do today for Solana to make the MACD turn up at all, because we're basically down about, how much are we down today? On the daily time frame, is this over 8%, 8.5%. I could have just looked at the side, to be fair, but yeah, the Sol USD price is really not doing too well on the daily. You can also see the MFI, the money flow indicator, heavily overextended when this was up here at 88, and now it's coming back down to the heartline as well, currently residing at 60. Basically, zoom out, look at every single time that the MFI approached or exceeded the maximum overbought region around about the 80 level. Every single time you pop your head above it, pop your head above it, pop your head above it, come near it, pop your head above it, you always come right back down. I mean, the most conservative case, you came down to 31 over here. In every other case, you came down to, this was also another retest of 32. This was basically down to 25. This was down to 20, 22 approximately. So right now we can definitely expect another massive downturn over on the money flow index, meaning that, hey, there's probably going to be a large amount of volume coming in that is going to be from sellers who are looking to exit the market in the next 48, 72 hours or so. Especially before the FOMC meeting, the GDP, there's going to be a lot of volatility coming into these markets. Squeeze momentum indicator on the daily time frame is starting to tick back over into that dark green. It's definitely not good when you see it tick over into light red. head back down to dark green, indicative that bears are about to take over a trend, and then you switch back into a bearish stance. I mean, it really just shows, hey, you know, no matter how hard the bulls try over in the price action over here, we really do just want to push the price down to lower levels. Now, in the 4-hourly time frame, it's definitely less convincing as to whether we're going to go down immediately. I would definitely say there is a lot of potential liquidity at this region. We looked at this over on the VPVR, so I would not put it against it for potentially this channel to just elongate itself. Solana in the next 4, 8, 12 hours or so can definitely return to as high as $40, $41 before heading back down to the downside, because on the 4-hourly time frame, you don't have the most convincing crossover on the MACD. Money flow is round about that heart line after coming down to 35. And also the squeeze momentum indicator, there's not a lot of momentum coming in or out of the markets right now. Once again, because of the TA, you know, we look at these charts and you can see we're basically sitting at a very, very crucial moment for the markets, which makes sense because why would we have a switch in momentum when you're sitting at a key pivotal moment? We haven't decided whether you're going to be breaking macro bullish, macro bearish at this moment in time. Well, you know, macro, in my opinion, I don't think it's even up for debate. Macro is obviously very, very heavily to the downside for Solana right now. Lower time frames, definitely arguable. You could definitely say that we're still on an uptrend. I think this is soon going to be decimated as Bitcoin does inevitably capitulate. We've already lost the 200-week moving average. We've lost this support breakout. We broke out of a bear flag, no matter if you were drawing it like this. You know, we had this failed move equals a fast move in the opposite direction, and we're only starting to see this fast move play out for Bitcoin. I talked about this on my channel. We mentioned this many, many times where we talked about the failed move over here. I talked about the failed move back here, and as I always say in my videos, a failed move equals a fast move in the opposite direction. So I'm probably the least surprised out of anyone in crypto YouTube right now why we're having these major capitulations, because I've been calling for it for quite some time now. Solana got over exuberant in the short term. You can see, once again, hopped above the daily EMA ribbons. You had a failed move. You know what comes next. This was a failed move. This is going to equals a fast move in the opposite direction if Solana does close its daily candle body close below $39. So keep your eyes on $39. In my opinion, as a bear, I would really like to see Solana close below $39 because I personally want to buy cheap Solana. I want to be DCAing at 10, 15, potentially 20. I haven't yet decided if I want to buy that high, but nonetheless, I'm a big fan of Solana. If you're a big fan of Solana in the long term, you should probably want it to go to the downside as well so we can buy cheap. But if you've already got your bags packed, if I was you, I'd be keeping my eyes on $39. I'd want to close above 39. Really, I'd want to close above 39 and then within the next couple of days move back above the daily EMA ribbons, get above this major volume profile at 42, basically 4160, because then you've got free range to move to the upside. And we all know, if you're watching this, I imagine you are obviously a big fan of Solana if you are watching this. So if you are part of Twitter like myself and you do see what the Solana community is like, you know they're a bunch of filthy degenerates who love buying the dip on NFTs. Myself included. My profile pic is an NFT. You know, I don't say degenerate as a bad thing. I am a Solana degenerate, and I do want to buy cheap so I can ape into stupid projects. But nonetheless, Solana right now, lower time frames, mid time frames, high time frames, it all looks pretty bearish to me. I think we are gearing up for that next move to the downside. Let's see how Solana is doing against Bitcoin. But before we do that, once again, your last line in the sand is literally right here at 30. Let me clear it up. $37.46. If you close a daily beneath there, you're also going to have a lot of liquidity shot to the downside. And also one last thing is we had a very, very nice accumulation range right within these ranges. You had tons of volume traded. And actually, if we move this down a tiny bit like this, you can even move this down a little bit further because I'm correlating this to the VPVR where we had the most amount of liquidity traded. There was not a large amount of liquidity above this region, but nonetheless, we managed to have a breakout. We managed to grab some liquidity for Solana up here at 47.50. And clearly, you know, there was enough sellers up in this region to push the price back down to the downside. Good amount of bearish momentum coming in. 4-hourly time frame seems like there's a good amount of sellers. High Kanashi candles on the daily. You are initiating that next downtrend, literally sitting on the cusp of breaking below the EMA ribbons. massive clusters of bearish volume over on the Heikonashis as well. It seems pretty clear cut that we should be gearing up for that next move to the downside very soon for Solana. So like I said, this is your last line in the sand, $37, and I believe it was $37.50, $37.40. This is the region you want to hold. If you break beneath that region in the immediate short term, let's mark what we've got here. So we need to extend this one out. Your 618 fib is beautifully lining up with that. 3720 is where your 618 resides. So you've got a huge cluster of potential support right here. And then as that does get yanked beneath your feet, $35, that is basically your last line in the sand. Over on the 786 Fibonacci from your fib from your low to high, technically $34.46. As you can imagine, let's just call it 35, 34.50, whatever you want to call it. This box over here is basically your last line in the sand. If you start moving beneath this range, you are going to majorly take that next huge leg to the downside. Where do I think we're going to? Your 1.618 Fibonacci from this low up until this high presents a beautiful 1.618 Fibonacci down here at $24 in the immediate short term. And by immediate short term, I mean within the next 2 to 3 weeks. After we have all our earnings reports, after we have our FOMC on the 27th, after we have GDP on the 28th, I think we're going to be gearing down for these lower prices. Now, slightly off topic to the altcoins, but the stock market's not looking good as well. Stock market indices, SPY, NASDAQ, they're all looking extremely weak at this moment in time. Basically everything is down on the stock market today, so it's definitely not looking good for the crypto markets when the stock market is breaking down and the crypto markets are sitting at their last line in the sand. So if the stock market comes down too much more, there's not going to be a lot of liquidity, there's not going to be a lot of open interest in BTC and Solana at these levels. The open interest is really going to start rising in as we head over to the weekly time frame, and you can see, you know, once again, $24 down at these big clusters between $16 and $11. There's going to be huge amounts of buys, and where I personally would really like to see Solana come down to between $11 and $9. That's where I've been targeting for a while, but the more and more we lollygag sideways, the more and more I feel like potentially that is too much of a bearish price target. I'm going to keep my eyes on Bitcoin, and I'm going to monitor how brutal the next Bitcoin capitulation is, because if Bitcoin looks, you know, if Bitcoin comes down to these regions like 16k, and I was originally calling for 16k, but then I updated and said between 15 and 14 is what I kind of see coming into fruition. But we've currently got an upcoming perfect storm of bearish news, bearish events coming in the market within the next week. So within the next couple of weeks, if Bitcoin really doesn't push down to these price targets that I talked about, like 14k, 15k, then I might start aping into Solana at some cheaper price targets. Like you've got another 1.618 down here at $21. You've got major areas of support back at $19, all the way down to $8. I don't think $8 is going to get hit. I don't think we're going to go below $11, $10. These are really my most bearish price targets that I would love to buy at, but definitely. Would I be opposed to DCAing Solana at $19? Would I be opposed to buying at the 1.618 down here at $21? Absolutely not. I definitely start picking up Solana at some of these cheaper price targets. That's when I want to start DCAing into the market. Bear in mind, if you've watched my channel, I've basically been bearish on Solana since the retest. I believe it was it wasn't the 0.5, it was down here, $98. We had a bearish cross on the weekly time frame. We got rejected from the 618 Fibonacci. This is when I started flipping bearish, and from when I did flip bearish and when I sold the majority of my Solana, we're currently 62% down, so definitely not bad. I would love to start accumulating my bags back again. Let's wrap up the video with how Solana is doing against Bitcoin. So we're coming down to a very crucial area on the volume profiles. There's not much in terms of support beneath us, considering how we've dropped 4.5% against BTC today. We're only about another 3.2% of the way to the downside for us to basically completely lose it. Beneath this level, max fear is going to once again come into the markets. You're going to be capitulating, and we already are. beneath your daily EMA ribbons. If we pull up the 14, you are below the 14 now as well. So lots and lots of bearish stuff going on. You're having a lot of nasty flips over on Solana BTC right now. And also look how perfect this is. I believe we originally talked about this, but I didn't actually think that we were going to spike all the way up. We originally said, you know, sometimes when you do have these bearish flips on the weekly time frame, a lot of the time you get magnetized to the EMA ribbons, and then you retest them, make sure they're resistance before coming back down. And we actually last week we came right back into these from all the way down here. You know, these were about to cross bearish, and you had an 84.4% run to the upside. You retested these, and just like how Solana can get very, very over exuberant, lots of buyers can come in, it's the same to the downside. Once again, Solana, the community of Solana users are filthy degenerates, and I don't say that as an insult. I say it because I know it's true, because I am a Solana user. I know what the NFT marketplace is like. I know what the community is like. You know, GMs and monkeys smoking cigars. It is all filthy degenerates over on Solana. So as much as I love them, I know that they're going to panic out of this market very, very quickly when the next capitulation comes back down. So I really think back down to this accumulation range. Honestly, you know, this was basically a very, very nice pit stop on the way while Solana was in its massive bull run, massively outperformed Bitcoin. This is one of the altcoins that I really do think is going to massively, massively outperform coming in the next market cycle. Do I think it's going to outperform Bitcoin in the immediate short term? No, I think it's going to head down about another 60%, potentially as low as the 2.618 down here at 65% capitulation. So that's really what I see on the Solana BTC front. And once again, Solana USD front, like I said at the start of this video, I would not be surprised if in the lower time frames you do have this bounce from this support, and that's exactly what we've done, you know, since I started recording this video. I mean, we only went up about 40-50p. Bitcoin's having an okay bounce from this region. The downtrend is definitely still in place though. Daily time frame Heikonashis are getting absolutely slaughtered. 4-hourly Heikonashis for Bitcoin are starting to look up. So once again, like I said, just like Solana's in a channel, do not be surprised if Bitcoin and Solana shakes a few people out on the way to the downside before that next major liquidity grab, all the way back down to some lower price targets on Solana, like $25. I fail to see how there's going to be a large amount of liquidity above the 47.50 mark. I really think the liquidity that we've got in the market is really round about these regions, and after we do capitulate beneath this 25, 24, and then subsequently $19, I think these are all going to be in play very, very quickly. These are my immediate short-term price targets. That's all I've got for Solana. Hope you did enjoy today's content, and yeah, as always, my friends, Cowboy out. Peace.